We cover a lot of high-end devices, but a huge section of the market is affordable phones. And a lot of the time, the cheaper the phone, the lower the quality. But these two phones break that stereotype, bringing high performance at a low cost. I'm Hayato with Pocketnow, and this is the Alcatel OneTouch Idol 3 versus Motorola's 2014 Moto G. First things first, the hardware. These two phones have pretty similar designs, both bodies are made entirely of plastic, both feature front-firing speakers, and both utilize on-screen buttons. The most obvious difference here is size. The Moto G is already fairly large with a 5-inch display, but the Idol 3 packs an additional half an inch, bringing it up to 5.5 inches measured diagonally. The Idol 3 also has an advantage in pixel density. The Moto G's 720p display sits at a reasonable 294 pixels per inch, but the Idol 3 packs 401 pixels with its 1080p panel. If you're shopping for a low-cost smartphone, little things like this might not bother you, but the difference is definitely noticeable when you hold the two phones side by side. Also noticeable is the difference in screen quality, where the Idol 3 wins again with its superior color reproduction and viewing angles. Internally, the Moto G packs a quad-core Snapdragon 400 processor clocked at 1.2 GHz with an Adreno 305 GPU and a GB of RAM. The Idol 3 sports an octa-core Snapdragon 615 at 1.5 GHz with the Adreno 405 and 2 GB of RAM. Moto G with a 2070 mAh battery, Idol 3 with a 2910 mAh battery. Both support microSD expansion, but the Idol 3 has double the internal space to begin with versus the Moto G, with 16 GB to work with versus the 8 GB respectively. A lot of these spec differences can be blamed on more internal space to work with, or an 8-month gap in release, but no matter how you look at it, it's abundantly clear here that Alcatel has the advantage in hardware. Moving on to the software side of things, both phones ship with a very close to stock Android experience. Both of our units are running Android 5.0.2, though your Moto G might soon be updated to 5.1. Mine hasn't seen that update quite yet. Motorola's offering certainly looks closer to stock, and in fact, for all intents and purposes, it is running stock Android, with a few Motorola tweaks to enhance the experience. Features like Moto Assist that smartly judge when you might be driving, or sleeping, or in a meeting, and adjust the phone's behavior accordingly. There's also Moto Migrate to make moving from another phone a bit easier. Jumping to the Idol 3, while the software experience is definitely that of stock Android, it doesn't really look the part. Alcatel has added some custom icons and a few tweaked apps, but rest assured when you launch the phone dialer or clock, it's the same software that you'll find on the Moto G. The company's made a few changes of their own, like the quick access toggles on the lock screen to launch frequently used apps, but again, both phones are nearly identical in software without leaving any outstanding features to indicate a clear winner. Cameras are another gray area. Neither phone has a particularly good camera, and both suffer from similar problems. Poor saturation, lack of depth, digital noise, and so on. They're not the worst cameras in the world, but don't expect either to produce stunning results under any circumstances. In daily use, both phones are surprisingly fast given their price tag. Neither phone suffers from excessive stutter or lag, and neither feels like a budget phone. If we had to say one phone was faster than the other, it'd have to be the Idol 3 by a hair, but then again, that's to be expected when you're operating with double the cores and RAM. Also predictable based on specs is the Idol 3's superb battery life, which is something the Moto G just can't match. Where the Moto G clocks out at about 3 hours of screen on time, the Idol 3 can go anywhere from 4 to 5.5 hours on a single charge, all while powering a bigger, sharper display. So what's the verdict? Well, Motorola's offering with the Moto G was, and continues to be, a great option for anyone looking to save a buck and still get a great phone. But it came out back in September, and the next refresh is probably less than half a year away. If you already have a 2014 Moto G, there's no need to rush out and order the Idol 3, but it goes without saying that given the superior specs, the sharper display, and the longer battery life, the Idol 3 from Alcatel OneTouch is probably the better bang for your buck here. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for all the tech videos you could ask for. This has been Hayato with Pocketnow, and we thank you very much for watching. See you next time.